The metabolic and health benefits often attributed to intermittent fasting are closely tied to energy balance, highlighting that reducing calories, not just the timing of meals, plays a central role in driving improvements in weight, glucose regulation, and cardiovascular health. While fasting protocols, including time-restricted eating, TRE, alternate day fasting, or periodic extended fasts, are frequently promoted for their effects on metabolism, research indicates that the primary mechanism behind many of these benefits is a spontaneous reduction in total caloric intake. In other words, limiting eating windows naturally reduces the opportunity to consume excess calories, and this caloric deficit underlies many of the positive outcomes observed in fasting studies. When calories are restricted, whether through fasting or other dietary approaches, the body experiences improvements in several key metabolic pathways. Reduced energy intake lowers circulating glucose and insulin levels, which enhances insulin sensitivity and reduces the risk of hyperglycemia. Lower caloric intake also decreases oxidative stress and inflammatory markers, which contributes to cardiovascular protection and cellular health. In human studies, participants following TRE or intermittent fasting protocols often consume fewer calories simply because their eating window is condensed, and this unintentional caloric reduction correlates strongly with improvements in body composition, fasting glucose, triglycerides, and blood pressure. These findings suggest that the metabolic benefits commonly associated with fasting may not stem exclusively from the timing of food intake, but from the net energy deficit it often produces. Animal research provides additional insight into the interplay between fasting, calorie reduction, and metabolic health. Rodents on time-restricted feeding schedules frequently exhibit reduced fat mass and improved insulin sensitivity, even when the total caloric intake is matched to control groups. However, in many cases, energy intake in these animals is slightly lower due to the limited feeding window, and this small reduction is sufficient to trigger beneficial adaptations such as enhanced fat oxidation, improved glucose handling, and reduced inflammation. Similarly, human trials that carefully control for calories often show that when caloric intake is kept constant, the timing of meals alone has a smaller, more subtle impact on metabolic markers than previously thought, reinforcing the central role of energy balance. The concept of energy balance extends beyond simple calorie counting. Fasting can create favorable shifts in hormone regulation that support weight management and metabolic health, but these effects are most meaningful when combined with a reduced or controlled caloric intake. For example, fasting lowers postprandial insulin peaks and can modestly increase norepinephrine levels, promoting fat mobilization. However, without a corresponding reduction in energy intake or adjustment in meal composition, these hormonal changes may not translate into substantial weight loss or long-term metabolic improvements. Therefore, fasting acts as a tool to help regulate energy intake and align meals with circadian rhythms, but it is the overall calorie reduction that is the primary driver of metabolic benefit. Practical applications highlight the importance of combining fasting with mindful eating. Condensing the daily eating window can naturally reduce caloric intake by limiting opportunities for snacking or overeating. Pairing this approach with nutrient-dense foods, rich in protein, fiber, and healthy fats, enhances satiety, supports lean muscle preservation, and stabilizes blood sugar. Even modest reductions in daily caloric intake, achieved through time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting, can produce measurable improvements in body composition, insulin sensitivity, and cardiovascular markers over weeks to months. Importantly, this approach is sustainable as it does not require drastic caloric restriction or extreme dieting. Rather, it leverages behavioral cues such as limited eating windows to promote an overall negative energy balance in a natural and manageable way. Furthermore, focusing on energy balance clarifies why intermittent fasting may benefit some individuals more than others. People who consume excessive calories in unrestricted eating patterns are likely to see pronounced improvements when adopting fasting protocols because the fasting window inherently reduces energy intake. Conversely, individuals who already maintain moderate caloric intake may experience smaller changes, since energy balance is already optimized. This variability underscores the importance of personalization, emphasizing that fasting is a tool to support caloric regulation and metabolic efficiency rather than a guaranteed shortcut to improve health. In conclusion, while meal timing and circadian alignment play a supportive role in optimizing metabolism, energy balance emerges as the central factor behind fasting-related benefits. Reducing total calories through condensed eating windows or controlled fasting triggers improvements in insulin sensitivity, fat oxidation, inflammation, and cardiovascular markers, forming the foundation for metabolic enhancement. Intermittent fasting is effective not because it magically accelerates metabolism, but because it helps regulate energy intake in a structured and sustainable manner. By combining strategic fasting with nutrient-dense foods and consistent lifestyle practices, individuals can harness these calorie-mediated benefits to improve energy regulation, support metabolic health, and promote long-term well-being.